Hi, everybody. I don't want you to be deceived. Persecution is already here.
And it solidifies the notion that U.S. Christians have a deep victim complex. So the Atlantic reports here, many Christians believe they are subject to religious discrimination in the United States. A new report from the Public Religion Research Institute and Brookings offers evidence. Almost half of Americans say discrimination against Christians is as big of a problem as discrimination against other groups, including blacks and other minorities. 3/4 of Republicans and Trump supporters said this, and so did nearly 8 out of 10 white evangelical Protestants. So, man, is that telling. 75% of Republicans and Trump supporters say, oh, yeah, the Christians in America are so persecuted. They're victims, man. They're victims. So people have been living on a steady diet of Fox News for decades now, and this is the result. And I think the most important part of this is trying to understand what they view as discrimination. Because it's easy for us to sit here and say, well, that's obviously silly, because it is silly. But how do they define that? How do they view it? And the answer is actually quite simple. They believe it's discrimination if they can't discriminate against you.
And it comes in waves. So I'm going to read some stuff to you that I found doing research. Christians continue to be the most persecuted believers in the world, with over 90,000 followers of Christ being killed, according to a prominent Italian sociologist and author, Massimo Introghini. The number went down from 2015 to 105,000. Christians were killed and 70% were slain in Africa. But religious harassment occurred in 145 nations for Christians, 129 for Muslims, and 90 for Jews. About 2/3 of the estimated 2.3 billion Christians, according to the study in Italy, in the world live in dangerous neighborhoods. They are often poor, belong to ethnic, linguistic, and cultural minorities, and are at risk. He said that is the more important number. Persecution, according to a dictionary, is the systematic mistreatment of an individual or group by another individual or group. Merriam-Webster says, those who differ in origin, religion, or social outlook, which I believe is true. Studies are finding that persecution of Christians are on the rise of a different kind of persecution, and this is how it starts. Remember the Holocaust and the intolerance of the Jews. And here's a quote. This is the way it started in Germany against the Jews, as they became more isolated and marginalized by the Nazi propaganda machine. As popular hatred and prejudice against the Jews increased among the German people, wholesale persecution followed. Now think about this, I'm adding, is you hear the mockery of Christians on Hollywood.
Of the year and stars at last night's Emmy Awards wasted no time, of course, getting political, taking aim this time at Christians and, of course, at the Republicans and at the president. Listen.
I've been watching this very shocking dystopian drama called The News.
The Obamas now even have their own production deal at Netflix. My dream is that the only thing they produce is their own version of The Apprentice, and it gets way higher ratings.
The only white people that thank Jesus are Republicans and ex-crackheads.
So
Willie, a whole big bottle of this liquid drain cleaner. My drain's still running as slow as molasses. Oh, that grease.
Willie'll fix, Mrs. McKenzie. Okay, Liquid Drano. Hope nobody finds out. But if women used you every week, they'd never need me.
really, you're the best drain cleaner.
Liquid Drano, the super grease cutter. Use it once a week.
The Washington Times gave some quotes. A couple of decades ago, for instance, universities were delighted when we started a chapter because we were considered a moral and calming influence on campus. They thought it was excellent. They needed help leveling the party culture. Now, of course, Christians are no longer considered to be moral additions to a community. I think Christians are actually considered moral problems to solve, particularly because of human sexuality issues. As the diversity of inclusion, this is another one, movement grows, more and more companies become diversity-centric. What you really begin to see is a glaring gap that exists. As a Christian, you begin to see that you're being excluded from the culture, excluded from the conversation, which is what I found when I was at work, and I still find it now. I don't even talk about it. If I want to keep my job, they're using essentially a melting pot analogy. Everyone should come together and blend together, and therefore everything should be accessible to everyone. In fact, nobody teaches the melting pot analogy anymore in elementary school because we've all realized that a melting pot analogy silences the people on the margins and those who are different and assumes that we should all become assimilated. So another report is tolerance of anti-Christian attitudes in the United States due to the Pew Research Institute is escalating. Recently, a woman in Houston, Texas was ordered by local police to stop handing out gospel tracts to children who knocked on her door during Halloween. Officers informed her that such activity is illegal, which is not true, and that she would be arrested if she continued. In Madison, Wisconsin, the Freedom from Religion Foundation distributes anti-Christian pamphlets to public school children entitled, "We Can Be Good Without God." The entertainment industry and syndicated media increasingly vilifies Christians as, get this, sewer rats, vultures, simple-minded social degenerates. The FBI and the White House, remember when Hillary Clinton was running and all that, brand fundamentalist Christian groups as hate mongers and potential terrorists. This is a beginning, guys. It's already here.